June 4th, 11:59 p.m. As the masses clamor outside their local Best Buys and GameStops to enter the next generation of Nintendo, a single thought buzzes within their primitive brains.
Mario Kart! Yippee!
But I'm not so easily swayed. I'm a rebel, a free thinker, a connoisseur of the finer things. So when I got my Switch 2, I downloaded Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour and 100%ed the entire thing in 2 sittings. So what do I think? Well, I think a lot of things. I think it's complicated. In case you're unfamiliar with this tech demo showcasing the Switch 2, because I wouldn't blame you for not paying attention to it during a showcase with Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, and Kirby Air Ride, let me start this review with a general rundown of what this thing actually is. Welcome Tour is less of a game or tech demo than it is a digital museum, a painstakingly detailed deep dive into the many complex decisions behind the design of the Switch 2. The experience consists of 4 main features. First, you select an avatar and can walk around and inside massive floating versions of every piece of hardware, from the main console and Joy-Cons to the wrist straps, dock, and not included USB camera. To progress to new areas, you need to find invisible stamps at every point of interest to complete the stamp rally. These points of interest are USB ports, buttons, fans, batteries, you get the idea. Along the way, you can also experience a handful of tech demos and mini-games that show off the Switch 2's new hardware features, predominantly the Joy-Con mouse controls, alongside more run-of-the-mill stuff like 4K and HDR on compatible TVs, or touch features and variable refresh rates on the console screen. And finally, the game refers to the museum portion of Welcome Tour as Insights, little walls of text, videos, and animations that detail every single thing you could ever want to know about the Switch 2 and more. Almost too much more. Except the fact that Switch cartridges are coated in an extremely bitter agent to keep kids from eating them. Clearly they didn't want to psychologically trick everyone into licking cartridges by telling them to not lick cartridges, so I'm doing it instead. Whether or not you'll find Welcome Tour an utter disappointment or a novel gem is dependent on the lens through which you view it, which means for me, it's both at the same time. On the positive end, as far as I know, there's no other game on any system that outlines the hardware and physical design choices behind a console as intricately as Welcome Tour. Maybe it's the first to do it ever. And not just that it runs in 4K or that the Joy-Cons have bigger buttons. We're talking about the types of metal and fiberglass used in the controllers, how the circuit boards were designed, how the wires were routed to avoid overheating, how the designers thought of every detail and every potential issue down to the last 1/10 of a millimeter. Yeah, it's an ad for the thing you already bought, but it is genuinely surprising to see a company like Nintendo be this open about their design after decades of secrecy and general corporate fuckery. I know so much useless shit about this console now, dude. The next person that comes up to me at a party is gonna regret ever being born once I start telling them about how the Joy-Con straps are machine sewed to prevent knots. Now, does this mean all of the info is particularly interesting? Absolutely not. The weird part about Welcome Tour's insights is that half of them feel included for game developers, product designers, and curious fans to marvel over, while the other half feel like they exist for a theoretical person that is somehow a gamer, but also completely unfamiliar with the concept of TVs or HDMI cables. You can unplug the cable. The cable is small, but it's good. The cable is thick. After you finish reading a set of insights, you can take a quiz on them to make sure you remember everything. But the questions are so easy that as long as you have a passing familiarity with how computers work, you can get most of them right on the first try without reading anything, unless it's one of the ones that genuinely asks you to memorize how thick certain gaps or pieces of metal are. Obviously, this content is optional, so I don't expect people to be speed running through it for any reason, but as it is the majority of the experience, I do think it can get a little tiring to read such menial info if you're expecting a more gameplay-centric experience. Honestly, tech demo's the wrong word. It's a digital museum or display showcase. All the more reason that it should have never cost money. But it does, and that recontextualizes things. You know what else recontextualizes things? The fact that this is a promoted day one launch title that, despite not fully being a tech demo, is being called one. For all intents and purposes, this is the Switch 2's tech demo, and when you compare it to Wii Sports, Nintendo Land, or Astro's Playroom, oh boy, does it fall embarrassingly short. I'd have an easier time pitching a $10 price tag on just about anything else than I would on an advertisement quiz game for a product I just spent $500 on. Every time I hit a mini game or tech demo after like 15 straight minutes of being told that the Switch 2 has 12 more terashits per gigaflop than the Switch 1, I'd let out a sigh of relief like a kid finally making it to recess. And fittingly, recess was putting the square block in the square hole. Yeah, so unfortunately, the mini games here are very simple tech demos that feel way more excited about their novelty than most actual players will be. And to be clear, I love messing with Nintendo's weird projects, the Ring Fits, the Labos, the Alarmos, and despite the fact that Welcome Tour isn't free, I was ready to go to bat for it so long as it had some of that Nintendo charm. But it kinda doesn't.
This is the type of shit you find at like a kid's museum, science museum 20 years ago. I'm a fucking robot. What's up? I'm 12 years old and this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I'm a fucking robot. What's up? I'm 12 years old and this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
The main problem lies with the fact that the Switch 2 isn't really innovative enough to warrant exclusive tech demos and hardware demonstrations. Wii Sports worked because motion controls were revolutionary at the time, and it was also a fun game to play alone or with friends. Nintendo Land worked for the same reasons. Fun games that utilized the gamepad's touchscreen, stylus, tilt controls, and asymmetrical multiplayer capabilities. But not only is the Switch 2 just a beefed up version of the Switch with a couple new gimmicks, the mini-games in Welcome Tour are barely games, let alone ones you'd ever want to revisit. None of them are novel unless you've never used a fucking computer mouse before. Because Nintendo's only trying to show off features that didn't exist on the Switch 1, 80% of the demos are either about how detailed the new rumble is, or the fact that the Joy-Cons can be used like mice. I mean, hey, $10 balloon aim trainer if you want to get really good at clicking heads with a Joy-Con, I guess. The most impressive feature for me was the HD Rumble 2, as it's intricate enough to make little noises or simulate the feeling of beads and rubber balls rolling around inside the controllers. Those few tech demos really brought the light back to my eyes for a bit.
What the fuck? Dude, it feels like there are beads. What the fuck? How do they do that? Ah! They got me. They got me with the maracas.
In a weird way, though, Welcome Tour makes me a little sad because it shows off features that are too niche to really be included in anything outside of Nintendo's first-party titles, especially with how much less common console exclusives have become. Like, I don't know of any Switch games other than Ring Fit, Labo, and WarioWare Move It that used the IR camera on the right Joy-Con. Did you even know that the right Joy-Con has an IR camera? Because it does, and they removed it from the Switch too, so better keep your old Joy-Cons around. As far as the overall aesthetic of Welcome Tour is concerned, it's Nintendo's equivalent of an in-flight safety manual. It's a flat simplicity that's a bit resemblant of Clubhouse 51, but with less charm, so as a celebration of a new system and its hardware, it feels pretty corporate and lifeless. I know when reviewing a game it's better to look at what's there more than what isn't, but I can't help but feel like there's a million missed opportunities here. Sure, they're saving the good platforming for Mario and Donkey Kong, but like, I think there's one reference or tech demo involving a Nintendo character in the entirety of Welcome Tour, on a console driven by its iconic franchises. Walking around the console is fun occasionally, and the standouts are when you get to go inside and climb around on the wiring and circuit boards, but the Stamp Rally quickly loses its luster when you need to find 10 to 15 invisible spots in each area. Plus, for a tech demo that seems to be so dedicated to the appreciation of its hardware, it is just really boring sometimes. Like, this is Nintendo we're talking about. How does Nintendo fuck this up? At best, the mini-games are goofy enough to be fun for 10 minutes, like the speed golf one where you gotta putt a ball using the mouse controls, or the UFO one where you gotta dodge spikes using the mouse controls. But at worst, they are scraping paint off a wall or clicking on fake dead pixels.
Okay. Cool!
Oh, and at the very worst, they are completely unplayable without additional hardware. Yep, that's right. Within this paid game are multiple hidden microtransactions. You cannot experience all of its content or get all the medals for 100% completion stickers on every menu tab without buying both a USB camera and either the Joy-Con charging grip or the new $85 Pro Controller. Oh, and a 4K compatible display. Almost forgot that one didn't come bundled with the console. The camera one gets a semi-pass because my 10-year-old Logitech webcam somehow worked and let me play one of the best mini games in the whole exhibit, where you gotta make funny faces shown to you on the screen. However, this is just a basic thing you can do on an iPhone, and it's baffling that they used a 3D yellow emoji instead of, oh, I don't know, Mario? Maybe they didn't want you to be able to make him say fuck. The one I can't give a pass to is the minigame that requires the programmable macro buttons only found on controllers not included with the Switch 2. It's features like these, alongside veiled advertisements in the form of NPCs saying they should ask their parents to buy them the Joy-Con wheel accessory, that makes any price tag on this feel so wrong.
I want to play with the Joy-Con 2 wheels so bad. I hope my kids ask for it, then I'll get to use it too. I want to buy product. Buy product, please. Our birthdays are coming up. Should we ask Dad to get us a set of 2? Holy fuck, dude. You can't do this. You can't have SpongeBob be like, hey kids, ask your parents to buy the Joy-Con wheel for you. Fuck me, man.
The back half of the game is especially egregious as it dedicates 3 separate areas to peripherals that don't even come bundled with the Switch 2, which makes it feel like you've been led out of the museum and right into the gift shop. I'm not gonna say Welcome Tour is worse than Astro's Playroom, because they aren't even on the same playing field. But I will just say that having the GPU be a big floating robot in a jungle that sings a song makes the PS5 as a console far more endearing than a wall of sans serif text that tells you what a GPU does. My final critique, though, and arguably the most disappointing, is that as far as I can tell, there is no credits list or staff roll in any of the menus, nor does one automatically play after finishing the Stamp Rally, which is absolutely inexcusable. Here you have a testament to the human ingenuity, precision, and care that is required to make video games and consoles, and you're not gonna fucking credit them at all? Or any of the people who curated the digital museum that celebrates all these bells and whistles? Are you kidding me? Ultimately, my feelings about Welcome Tour kinda connect back to what I was saying earlier about a handful of gimmick features that don't really redefine how games are going to be played. It's a serviceable yet unmemorable aesthetic that mirrors the Switch's UI from a company that still makes great games but seems far less interested in doing weird shit. And on some levels, I can't say I blame them. Merging handheld and console markets was so genius that 7 years later, they can just do it again. I'm not asking for another Wii U failure. Hell, I don't even know if there's anything clever for them left to make. But at the very least, I miss when everything about a Nintendo console really felt like a Nintendo console. The last red and blue bastions of the Joy-Cons have been retired in favor of a gray coat of paint, nearly indistinguishable from a Steam Deck or any other PC handheld. I really can't imagine people in 15 years going, oh man, remember the faceless guys from Welcome Tour? In the same way people still talk about Mii's or the 3DS eShop bag dude. No one's gonna be going, man, remember how the gray circular icons on the Switch 2 made little noises? In the same way we all look back on the genius of the Wii channels, or the human connection of Street Pass, or the local wireless drawing app so iconic it got a Smash Bros stage, or the way you could hold down Z on GameCube controllers during startup to make the sound change, and if you held down A it'd fucking spin into a cube and go ba-da-do, ba-da-do-do, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. These features are not what sell consoles, games, and ecosystems are, but they are part of what has made Nintendo so iconic over the past 40 years, so it's really sad to see them playing far less of a role nowadays. I do love that Nintendo still occasionally fucks around and finds out with hardware like Labo and Ring Fit, but I miss when it was a universal experience that became a true part of the console and community just as much as the games did. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching, and you can subscribe if you want to. Bye.